What's up, Heat Nation? Your boy Ernest here, back with another Miami Heat Talk video. Video number 2 of the day, you guys. Well, technically, video number 3. I did post a second video today. It was from my match this past Saturday with my tag team partner, Ricky Martinez. It was a wrestling match. So if you haven't checked that out, you guys, please go check out that one. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel because we push into 6,000 subscribers. Now, before we get to today's topic, you guys, I just want to take a moment to apologize to y'all. I know the videos are a little bit different. There's no intro right now. I've used CapCut, and apparently CapCut was banned from the US. I didn't really know that. Honestly, you guys, I knew the whole TikTok thing was going down. Didn't really know about CapCut. So I'm not going to stop cutting videos for you guys. So just for the time being, you're just going to see the videos now. But believe me, I will be editing more and doing more different stuff for the channel. But please, guys, bear with me. Appreciate everyone's patience. Now, together, let's go on another Miami Heat Talk adventure. Now, the first video I posted today, you guys, we were talking about the fact that Eric Spoelstra finally played Kel'el Ware and Bam Adebayo on the same floor together. They didn't start together, but they played at times together during the game yesterday. Now, if you haven't seen that one, you guys, when you're done with this video, go check out that one. I thought it was a really good video, talked about some great stuff. But this video, we're back on Jimmy Butler. And we're back with this Jimmy Butler trade talk because there was a lot of different reports from guys like Brian Windhorst, Sam Amick, a lot of different sources posting about different things. Now, just to kind of backtrack a little bit, some stuff that we haven't talked about in this channel. 2 games ago, when Jimmy Butler came back from his suspension, with the whole declaration of the I'm back, copying the whole 1995 Michael Jordan return. He even wore that 45 Michael Jordan jersey. I see you, Jimmy Buckets. That jersey is fire. However, he did make some comments after the game, talking about how people have been talking a lot, and he's been the only one that's been quiet, which is true. But, you know, except for what you see on his stories, Jimmy Butler has been quiet throughout this whole process. There's been a lot of talks from a lot of different reporters from different Miami Heat channels, myself included. I'm sure Jimmy Butler sees all the bark with his name out there, and he's hearing all the stories. I mean, come on. If there's a bunch of people talking about you, you wouldn't even be just a little bit interested in knowing what people are saying. I'm sure you would. So I'm sure Jimmy Butler is listening to all the noise that's been said about him. So I want to start with a report that was put out earlier today, from Brian Windhorst. Now, Brian Windhorst was on ESPN. He was talking about this, and if Windy talks about it, you guys, you know there's some truth to the traction. Now, I'm going to go ahead and read this report, and I quote, this comes directly from Brian Windhorst. Jimmy Butler had his meeting with Mickey Arison on Thursday. There is no doubt an uptick in discussion around Jimmy Butler. The Miami Heat have shifted into a new gear after that meeting. I even had a team on Friday call me and say, hey, this team is trying to dump some salary. And they go, hey, we were just talking with a couple of teams who were trying to dump a salary, and they all of a sudden had to end our phone calls to go to something bigger. They said, what's going on? And I go, well, I don't know, but I speculate that it has to do with Butler, and not just a direct Butler trade, but a 3 and 4 team trades. The point is, I do think the Miami Heat are actually trying. End quote. Now, we've talked about this, you guys. We've talked about the fact that it's really difficult to move Jimmy Butler. I've mentioned that a lot on this channel, not just because of the drama and the situation that's going on with the whole requesting to be traded and all this drama that's broken out. Not just that, but the fact that Jimmy Butler has a $48 million contract, and that also has a $52 million player option that he can opt out of next year. Now, there's one thing that I want to remind everyone, and I'm only saying this because I go on Miami Heat Twitter, you guys, and I see people pulling out this insane trade ideas. People need to understand that this is not 2023 anymore. This ain't 2022, 2023. Ever since the 2023 offseason, especially this past offseason in 2024, the brand new NBA collective bargaining agreement was released. This was done so the NBA can have more control of the NBA, basically killing super teams. So now what that means is that players can't just fork over all this money to players. Because when you give multiple players large contracts, you're going to go into the second apron round. There are certain teams right now in the NBA that are second apron teams. The Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks. Just two that come off the top of my mind. These teams are hampered incredibly. I've mentioned it so much on this channel, you guys, but I always like to remind people because, let's be real, people don't really pay attention all the time. When you're a second apron team, you cannot sign mid-level players contracts, biannual contracts. You cannot sign players that are bought out mid-season. So these teams that are contenders and that are able to sign buyout players, kind of like what the Miami Heat did with Kevin Love a couple of years ago, that goes bye-bye when you're a second apron team. You are hampered like crazy. When it comes to trades, you cannot take back more money than what you're sending out. So the contracts have to match, basically. You also cannot aggregate players in a trade, which means you can't take multiple players. So for Jimmy Butler, who's making $48 million, Phoenix and Milwaukee can't take 3 to 4 players, send it to match the money. They got to send one player who's making the same amount of money as Jimmy Butler. It is so difficult to do, but it can be done. And one thing, you guys, this team has an assistant vice president under Pat Riley, who's the greatest numbers guy in the game, Andy Ellsberg. Andy Ellsberg has been a part of multiple Miami Heat trades that have facilitated 3 to 5 teams. The trade for Jimmy Butler that we did back in 2019 was all from the creative mind of Andy Ellsberg. It was a 5-team trade where the Miami Heat sent out Hassan Whiteside, Josh Richardson, and they were able to get back Jimmy Butler and Myers Leonard. This is stuff, you guys, that Andy Ellsberg specializes in. So if there's anybody that can get it done, it's Andy Ellsberg. Now, there's been reports. We know, you see Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler's not engaged. 8 points in his last game. You saw him in the intro. He was barely motivated. He was giving these faces. Now, obviously, I think that's just for showing the camera. Because there was also other footages coming out of Jimmy Butler in the bench where he's laughing and joking with his teammates. Jimmy Butler knows what he's doing. He ain't stupid. He wants to be traded. He doesn't have a problem with his teammates. He even said it in his post-game interview in his return game. He loves his teammates. It has nothing to do with the teammates. It's strictly with the front office. This is all about money. It has nothing to do with the fit. Jimmy Butler's a perfect fit on this team. It has nothing to do with basketball. This whole crap about Jimmy Butler being mad standing in the corner because of this Miami Heat new offense, bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's all about money. Jimmy Butler wants to get paid. And if the Heat don't want to pay him, he wants to go. That's cool. I'm fine with that. But the last thing I want the Miami Heat to do is to send out a terrible... it's to take back a terrible contract in order to remove Jimmy Butler. The Miami Heat have a golden opportunity, you guys, to cash in with this young developing team we have. I love this team. Look at what Kel'el Ware is doing next to Bam Adebayo. Tyler Hero's emerging. You have Nikola Jovic and Jaime Jaquez Jr., who have both played very well during Jimmy Butler's suspension. You also have these young kids, Kashad Johnson, Josh Christopher, Pellel Larson, Isaiah Stevens, ready to step up. We are ready to move into the youth movement. We have a team who, on paper, is just missing that one superstar. You plug in a Luka Doncic on this team, contenders. I'm not saying you can get Luka, but I'm getting y'all an example. If you put a Luka Doncic on this team with Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero, with all these other pieces, deadly as hell. But what you need to do is you need to free yourself up from some of these BS contracts you have. Jimmy Butler, Duncan Robinson, and Terry Rozier. I'm not hating on you three. It's business. Duncan Robinson has a contract next year that is not fully guaranteed. Terry Rozier's contract is an expiring contract next season. Jimmy Butler can opt out of his player option. The Miami Heat could potentially look to free up over $80 million in salary cap space by the 2026 offseason, where you have a monster level of talent going into free agency. De'Aaron Fox, Trae Young, Luka Doncic, just to name a few. So the last thing the Miami Heat need to do right now is to make a trade for Jimmy Butler where you're taking back contracts that are going to push you further than 2026. I'm looking at you, Bradley Beal. We know what Jimmy wants. Jimmy wants Phoenix. Phoenix wants Jimmy. The moment that Jimmy Butler goes to Phoenix, he will get a 2-year maximum contract extension. We know that's what he wants, and we know that's what Phoenix is going to give him. But the last thing that the Miami Heat are going to do is do a trade with Phoenix where they take Bradley Beal. I don't think Pat Riley cares that Phoenix can offer the 2031 future first-round draft pick unprotected. Even though that's a sweetie of a draft pick, it is 6 years from now. I don't think Pat Riley's going to be running this team by then. You never know. I mean, Father Time waits for no man, but look at what Riley's been doing. But anyways, I don't think the Miami Heat are really looking at that like, we need that. The Miami Heat want to make a trade for Jimmy. This is what I feel the Heat want. They want to. They kind of want some of the packages I've mentioned that other teams can do, like Golden State, Houston, Dallas, where they can put multiple players, attach a future first-round draft pick, and send that for Jimmy Butler. Because this, in turn, would actually help the Miami Heat for this season. Because I've mentioned this before, you guys, and I'm going to say it again. The number one goal this year, every year, is to win a championship. But let's be real, on paper, this isn't really a contending team. But you got to make the playoffs. You got to make the playoffs because some of your draft picks are lottery protected that will go to other teams if you do not make the playoffs this season. So it is critical that the Miami Heat need to make the playoffs. Not just for now, playoffs are raw, but it's also for your future as well. Now, there's a report that came out from Sam Amick. Sam Amick, you guys know I've talked about him before. He's a big-time reporter in the NBA, and I'm going to read a direct quote from Sam Amick. League sources have confirmed a report from the Athletic Sam Amick from earlier this week that the Milwaukee Bucks, unlike Memphis, have received no whispered messages intended to discourage the Bucks from trading for Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is indeed an active member of the Miami Heat once again, but league sources stress that the Miami Heat are determined to keep exploring trade possibilities between now and the February 6th trade deadline, amid real concerns that there is a considerable amount of season left to navigate to coexist for two parties that would prefer an immediate separation. End quote. So Memphis was the perfect fit for Jimmy. There was a report that Memphis and Miami had a trade. They had a trade agreed with. And apparently it was with a third team as well. But Jimmy Butler's camp called Memphis and said that if you trade for Jimmy, he will not sign an extension with you. I thought the report was Jimmy wanted to play anywhere but Miami, which we all know was crap. Look, I love Jimmy Butler. I've been a Jimmy Butler fan since he's come to the Heat. Actually, I've been a Jimmy Butler fan since before he came to the Heat. I love his attitude. I love the way he represents himself. I love how real and honest he can be. But one thing that I'm getting very annoyed by Jimmy Butler, that I'm sure Chicago fans, Minnesota fans, and Philadelphia fans are laughing about, is the fact that you got to deal with this knuckleheaded crap at times. I'm not saying that he's a bad dude. I'm just saying that he puts himself first, second, and third, which is cool. If that's the way you want to be, if it ain't about winning a championship, if it's about winning, if it's about getting paid, more power to you, boo-boo. I ain't got no problem with that. But me, as much as I like Jimmy Butler, I'm a Miami Heat fan first. I've been watching this team all my life. I've gone through all of the generations. Zoe and Tim Hardaway, Dwayne Wade and Shaq, Dwayne Wade, LeBron, and Chris Bosh, and the Jimmy Butler era. I've been through all of it. I'm always riding with the Miami Heat. And I think that Pat Riley needs to do what's best for this team. Every YouTuber, every podcaster that has talked about the Miami Heat, guys like Gilbert Arenas, Carmelo Anthony, Paul George, so many people says the same thing. Pat Riley is going to do what's best for the organization. So, what did I say before Jimmy Butler returned? Jimmy's got 3 weeks to show value. to show value so other teams can actually be interested in trading for this guy. There are teams in the NBA that are mid-breaking into the playoffs that can use a guy like Bradley Beal. The Detroit Pistons, in my opinion, would be the perfect fit for Bradley Beal. They're an up-and-coming team. They're fighting for playoff positioning. You put a veteran like Bradley Beal on that team, he can help them get into the playoffs, maybe even a second round. But there's no way Bradley Beal's gonna freaking waive his no-trade clause. That's the biggest problem here. Jimmy wants Phoenix. Phoenix wants Jimmy. Phoenix has one player they can move that almost matches Jimmy's money. But this is a player that no team wants. He's making over $50 million a season for the next 3 years. That's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is a no-trade clause. And Jimmy is not flexible to going to every team in the NBA. There's only 4 teams: Houston, Dallas, Golden State, and Phoenix. Golden State, Houston, and Dallas are not willing to pay the amount that's required to get to Jimmy Butler. Maybe Golden State gets desperate. Maybe Golden State gets desperate by the trade deadline, but you saw Draymond Green, Steph Curry, and Steve Kerr all come out and say there's no way that the Golden State Warriors are going to damage their future to try to win now. So they're out. I don't think Dallas ever really had true, real interest in trading for Jimmy. And the only team that can actually do this, that has the flexibility, is Houston. Houston would be a perfect fit for Jimmy. Maybe in the 11th hour, Houston changes their mind. But they have to give up a lot. Unless it's a deal involving Fred VanVleet. However, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, you guys, Andy Ellsberg is the best numbers guy in the NBA. If there's anybody that can make a 3, 4, 5-team trade work under the new NBA's collective bargaining agreement, it's Andy Ellsberg. If you told me this was another team, I would say the chances are they don't make the trade. But the fact that Andy Ellsberg is our vice president, I think he'll make it work. And the fact that Brian Windhorst reported that the Miami Heat there's no doubt that there's an uptake in discussions around Butler, and that the Heat have shifted into a new gear after the meeting, and the fact that how you're seeing Jimmy Butler is acting like the biggest boo-boo face in the world, let's see if the Miami Heat can make a deal. So Heat Nation, I want to hear from you. Do you guys believe the words that are coming from Brian Windhorst? Do you guys think that a multi-team trade can actually happen during the regular season, or do you think we're stuck with Jimmy Butler until the offseason? And I say stuck because this is bullcrap. All this drama. If Jimmy Butler just doesn't say anything, if the Miami Heat just doesn't say anything, we have an agreement, you're going to bust your ass for the rest of the year, we're going to try to see where we can go, get to the playoffs more importantly, then I'd be cool with that. But at the end of the day, you guys, when you have a disgruntled employee who doesn't want to work at the job anymore that he goes to, you guys all know this, we all have jobs for the most part. For a lot of people that work in places, when you don't want to work there anymore, when you go to a job that you're like let's say for example, you're working at a job for 3 more weeks, and then you know you have a new job coming up. You've already accepted this new job, but you have 3 weeks in this current job. A lot of people are not going to give their all. They're going to do the bare minimum just to get by, just to get it over with. That's kind of how Jimmy Butler is acting now. Do you really want that guy on your team for the rest of the season? If Jimmy Butler's motivated and plays like Himmy, I want that MFer on this team. I don't want to trade Jimmy Butler. I think Jimmy can help us with one more playoff push. It'll be beautiful to see this Jimmy Butler era end with one final playoff push. Imagine if this last year with Jimmy is a playoff run with Jimmy, Tyler, and Bam fully healthy. We've never seen that. In 6 years, we've never seen that. But the fact of the matter is, you guys, he just doesn't want to be here anymore. So if that's the case, you got to try to send him out. I don't want to trade him this season. I really don't. But it is what it is. So let me know what you think in the comments, Heat Nation. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel because we push into 6,000 subscribers. Thank y'all so much for the continued support. And until next time, your boy Ernest out. And that is enough said. I said trade Duncan Robinson, and I have a Duncan Robinson jersey on.